Hi, my name is Christine. I'm your pediatric feeding expert, and I'm here to talk about summer today. Does summer make picky eating worse? Sometimes it can, and sometimes summer can make things a lot easier. Really depends on your routines, what you're doing this summer. But I have 5 tips for you that, including camp survival, that will hopefully help make summer much smoother for you and your child. It's all summer is like, I look forward to summer every year of my life. I've always been a summer person. But it's no fun when you go to barbecues and your kids are melting down because the snacks you packed aren't right, or the smells are too crazy, or, their favorite food isn't available. So I'm going to try to give you some tips on how to make summer actually pleasant for everybody here. Okay, so summer can trigger some things. There's more time outside, which is great, but there's less routine usually, which is not always so great. There's usually lots of changes that happen in the summer, like you're going traveling, they might be in camp, there's barbecues, and there's always a lot of sugar. So these types of things can make picky eating worse depending on the child. A lot of times our kids are, you're going to play dates and parties, and there's more grazing that happens. They're missing hunger cues. They might be missing meals. They're just out of that routine, and kids really do thrive with routine. There's a lot of popsicles and sugary treats that could cause energy spikes and crashes that can make mealtimes hard. There might be some overwhelming sensory experiences, different noises, smells, the heat. Flexibility is really going to be key, but we want to try to have some structure to make kids feel safe, and knowing what to expect with all of these new and different changes that are going to happen this summer. And the biggest one I always hear is camp. Parents really get freaked out about camp. It's, there's new foods, there's unfamiliar routines, there's the peer pressure, it could be really overwhelming. So here are some things you can maybe do even for camp to help them be more successful. Talking to camp staff ahead of time about their feeding needs and preferences can be great, right? I think somebody there should definitely know about if your child is really selective. Packing them some backup snacks or meals that they can safely eat if it's allowed. I know some camps it's like, nope, sorry, they have to eat our food. And that's something you might want to research ahead of time. Not every program might be appropriate for your kids. If they're going to be the camp rules, that might not be an appropriate placement for them. So things to think about. Use your child's feeding level. Hopefully, if you're in our program, if they are fearful, stuck, or curious. Now, if you don't know what level they are at, go to the pickyeaterstest.com, find out their level, and knowing that can help you set some realistic expectations for summer. Like, you're not going to have a fearful kid that just is going to be fine eating all of the camp food. But if your kid is a curious kid, they actually might do pretty well at camp, right? Where there might be just enough of that peer pressure to be like, okay, I'll try it. And they might really thrive and do well in that environment. But putting a fearful eater in that same environment might be the complete opposite of that experience. You can also do things like role playing, using social stories to prepare them for different camp meal times. So talking to them ahead of time about camp, what to expect, what they're going to have and not have there. At least in their minds, they'll be somewhat prepared. So hopefully there won't be that complete meltdown, right? Camp is great. It's an opportunity to build confidence, expand food experiences, but doing it the right way is what I'm trying to say. Even now moving away from camp, whenever you're going out for the day, be it to the beach, a friend's house, maybe you're even just going on an overnight stay, packing familiar foods first. You probably are doing this anyway, but I do want you to add a challenge food. All right. We always want to start with food that the kids are trusting. Excuse me. It builds safety. It helps reduce their stress. But adding that challenge food, something a little bit less preferred or something new, even a new version of the same food. So maybe they love freeze-dried strawberries, but you're going to pack fresh strawberries, right? But pairing it with their favorite. So, you know, they're going to need a little bit of help and encouragement, but sometimes being outside of their house with their normal mealtime cues, they might be a little bit more flexible. They might surprise you that they might try something new. So my first tip really here is packing the familiar foods first with a challenge food that's very similar but not preferred. Okay, and trying that someplace outside of the home. Tip number 2, we're going to create a travel snack kit. So pack snacks that are, you know, try to be as balanced as you can. We definitely want some protein, so the sugar spike does not happen as severely. You know, things like cheese, nuts, if they can. You want things that are cooling. So if they get overheated, it's really easy for them to get like overwhelmed at that point when they're like overheated. So things like frozen grapes, yogurt pouches in a cooler can really be helpful. Watermelon, things like that have water in it naturally, especially if your kids are not big drinkers. You know, giving them foods that have water in it can be really helpful. Okay. Tip number 3, prepare for barbecues with a safety plan. Barbecues can be overwhelming with new food, smells, lots of people. Sometimes having kids eat beforehand, so they're not stressed and hungry at the same time, which could be a little bit of a recipe for disaster. Bring some of your backup safe foods just in case. And, you know, prepare yourself really for some of the comments. I feel like that's sometimes so much harder for the parents than the actual just packing them the foods. It's like people telling them about their kids. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, we've got this. We're working on it. Okay. Tip number 4, avoid the sugar crash spiral. Try to start the day with protein, trying to keep their energy stable. You know, if you're going to use treats, try to use it intentionally, not to bribe them to get them to do something. That's ideal. You know, it's not really a reward or a punishment if they get a treat or not get a treat. Ideally, it's just part of a balanced meal that, you know, oh, we had our protein today. Maybe we can have a treat later, right? So it's not necessarily a reward, but it's more like, oh, this is something that we do after we have our protein, because our body needs protein first and sugar like second, basically, right? We can explain this to them in a nice way. Tip number 5, keep an anchor meal consistent every day. So if it's always going to be breakfast at home, an evening smoothie, a familiar snack, keeping one meal consistent can really help with the chaos of summer that's normally happening. It creates a reliable spot in their day, place for them to reset and be calm. But summer is a really great place to start with new food routines, right? Getting them ready for the new school year, getting them ready to try hopefully different foods, discover what works, what's not before the new school year begins. So if you have a child who's super fearful or very stuck in how they are eating, you know, summer is a good time to try to tackle this. You might have more time off of work because the kids are home. It might be a good time to try to get, you know, a leg up on this, or, you know, starting to make some changes so that when you start fresh with a new school year, everything's new. So when you get back into routines, you can get back into a routine that is going to be supportive of them learning about new foods, instead of, once you're in that routine rut, it's a little bit harder, I find, for parents to make some of the changes that we talk about in our program. But summer and resetting into the new school year at the end of summer is just a natural transition that happens anyway. So what I'm saying is, it's a good time to join our program. So if you've been listening and thinking, okay, we have not solved this problem yet, a good place to start is by taking our quiz at thepickyEatersTest.com and finding out your child's level. And then from there, we can guide you as to what is the most appropriate next step and what path is right for you to take next with your child. It's an investment in your child's health, in their, relationship with food, and it is going to take time. So it's not like, oh, great, we're going to start it at the beginning, and by the end of the summer, we'll be all fixed. Especially with our fearful eaters, that's just not going to be the case. It's not a quick fix, but getting started and getting a lot of the foundations in place that you're really going to need to build on can absolutely happen during the summer. And it's a great time to get started. So if you were thinking about it, now is a really good time to get started. So we'll see you over there in the course, and we'll talk soon. Have a great week, guys. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.